everyone, and welcome to Bring It Home's monthly series on redefining success. This year, Bring It Home is celebrating the questions we began to ask ourselves together at the October Bring It Parents Summit. Thank you, Shefali, for being there. And we began our journey asking the question, what are the qualities that most support our children and us, because it all starts with us, as they evolve into the next generation of leaders, right? So I'm here today with Dr. Shefali Tsabary, international speaker, clinical psychologist, and author of now 3 best-selling books. What's the newest one?
It's called The Awakened Family. I have a copy right here. A Revolution in Parenting.
Oh, I love that. Love that byline. A revolution. We need a revolution.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
And of course, we can't forget Shefali, first and foremost, is a mother. I like to say we always start first with mother and parent and human being, right? Because we're all at the core the same. So thanks for being with me today. I'm really grateful to have you in the conversation. I think it's an important conversation that we start really getting down to the nuts and bolts of, like, what is it that we need to give our children in order for them to truly succeed, like authentically succeed. So today we're going to be talking about this beautiful quality called authenticity, and there's no one better to speak to authenticity than Shefali. So I'd love to hear you start. Like, just tell me, how do you define authenticity? Let's just get about it. What is authenticity?
I think authenticity is the power of belief in the fact that you have a voice and you have a right to manifest it. It's really a power belief, right? It's a belief system more than an action. It comes from a deep core understanding that you have a right to live this life and to muddle through it in your nuanced way. It's about how you seize your own destiny and take charge of it. It sets the seed for so much that we don't have as adulthoods. In our adulthood, we don't have the seeds of courage, of the audacity to be creative and take risks and think outside the box, not even have a box. This is where it bears fruit in the ability to be authentic. And so as parents, how can we, like you said, redefine success to not be about grades and achievement and doing, but to be about honing, really taking the time for your child to hone in on their power belief that they have a right to manifest their true self.
Yes, and how can they manifest their true self? How do they get to know who their true self is?
For the most part, children already know. It's us clearing the trees and the jungle for the allowance and the space for this to emerge. Now, this doesn't mean that your child says, I know I want to eat 10 cookies, and you say, oh, that's your true self, got to give you 10 cookies. So it's not about what they want or desire on a physical or ego want desire level. It's about who they already are. So if you know your child, likes to be in nature, or knows your child likes to be quiet, or knows your child likes to mediate and problem solve, right there, that's the authentic self. It's not what you tell your child should be. I don't think walking in nature will get you much money as an adult. So I think you need to, go study physics or whatever we have put on them. It's creating the space for allowing what the inherent nature is to come forth. From that nature, they will find the doing. Yeah. And I think we as parents don't believe that, right? We're not convinced that that's all it takes, is that we just allow them to unfold into their being, and from their being, their passions will rise.
Well, we haven't been taught that ourselves, right?
Exactly. But if we look at you and I in our 40s now, this is when we're kind of creating our most self-actualized selves, correct?
Yes.
We are now stepping into our own. We are touching our power, realizing that the false self did no good for us. It actually divorced us from our power. And now we need to redefine who it is. We already are from within. What is my nature? What makes me happy? What gives me joy? I don't like big crowds, or I love big crowds. I don't want to be a teacher, but I want to be a parent coach, or I don't want to be a parent coach. I want to be a ballet dancer. This is the age you see people starting to take risks and going back to their true self. So you as a parent have to ask, do I want my kid to go through many incarnations of false self to reach true self? Do I want them to go through drugs and divorce and then find their true self? Or can I help them already understand that this is their mandate as beings on earth to manifest their true self?
Okay, so that's perfect, right? So what do you say to the parents that, okay, my daughter wants to be a ballerina. She's 12 and she's okay. She's not super skilled, but I don't want her to get all caught up in that crazy fantasy because that's not really going to lead her to success, or she's going to be starving, or whatever it is that our fears get in the way of telling us. What do you say to that? Because how do we know what is in their authentic nature? How do we know?
First, we don't have to know in the way that you're saying, because you're kind of saying, how can we be sure?
Right.
Right. So we can never be sure.
Right.
We want to be sure. We want to be sure. If I'm going to invest all this money in your ballet classes, that you're going to become, someone like Misty Copeland in that genre or in that level of expertise. We want to be sure. We want to guarantee.
Yes.
And there's no guarantee. Because that guarantee is to allay our fears, is to really tell us, okay, you can spend all that money. Don't be afraid. This is going somewhere, right? It's future oriented. It's not in the present. How do you know what your child is saying? Your child is clearly saying it. We just haven't deeply listened, and we don't want to listen because maybe we don't like what the kid is saying. Maybe the kid is saying, I'm kind of ordinary and I'm happy being ordinary.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell you how many women in their 40s come to me with the epiphany, I'm ordinary and I'm okay being ordinary. I don't need to be a superstar. Wow, what a revelation. Why are we driving our children to be something they're not? Everyone is ordinary anyway at our core, but in that we're extraordinary and we're unique, but we don't all have to act extraordinarily. We don't all have to get extraordinary medals of achievement. We just need to stay in touch with who our nature is. For example, my daughter hates competitions. And I don't like that she doesn't like competitions, because I'm like, I'm spending all this money. What's the point if we're not going to compete and get some medals? And she says to me, why can't I do what I'm doing without the competition? What does the competition give me?
Yeah.
And I say, well, I think it makes you a better person. And I don't know that for sure. I'm just saying what culture told me to say. And I had to realize that this is a girl who doesn't like the spotlight in that way. She doesn't want to be out there. And I had to own that and honor that. And the minute I did, she continued being her happy self. It was me polluting the environment with my agenda.
Okay, so I love this example because I think there's often confusion between well, she doesn't like competition, but we need to teach her to like it, right? There's this like, if she doesn't like competition, she's not going to be able to, and all these stories start to roll around in our head. I think I see this happening in school all the time where, students are not good at math. So we need to get them a tutor, and we need to prop them up, and we need to encourage them, and we need to get them more help so they get better at math. And meanwhile, we're missing this whole thing over here where they're really good at, something else. So I think there's a way in which we focus on, and the reason I keep asking that question is, how do we know what's authentic? We're focusing so much on the lack. You'll talk about it in terms of lack, and we're not paying attention to, the abundance of what is in our kids.
Right. And we're splitting it up, right? We divide and conquer, right? So this is bad, this is good. And we're constantly compartmentalizing. The way I look at it is everything is a muscle, right? So just as a way of speaking. So the muscle of math may be overdeveloped in someone it may be underdeveloped. Instead of driving the kid crazy to overdevelop it, we simply say your math muscle is kind of limited and weak, and that's okay. Everyone has weak muscles and strong muscles. Here's the help and support to make you stronger, but you don't have to be a mathematician.
Yes.
Similarly, I'm not going to go looking for abundant qualities in the child. You don't have to look. It all unfolds.
Yes.
It's very clear, and it may not be clear in the first 18 years, But you have to be sure of yourself and how you have operated, that if you were allowed to stay true to yourself and no one came in the way, you would manifest your passion. It does come out, but it needs to be unhampered. We don't have to go looking and digging and weeding. We think we have to. It's going to come, and it may not come in huge extreme ways like these are my power strengths and these are my weak limitations, huge discrepancies. But then you just go, okay, now we're just in latency. It's called latency, and in quiet time, and nothing is coming forth right now, but you have to trust that after the winter will come the spring. The winter could be a long one, but not in a desolate and barren way. It just is a cooling down, and then the child will come. Will come. It's not for us to micromanage that to make us feel like we're productive.
Yes. You're reminding me of this. It's really interesting that you're saying this because my son's almost now 18, and his best friend, when they were 18 months old, they were playing together, and they each had a stick. This is my pen, but I'm going to pretend it's a stick. And Robert, who's my son, picked up the stick and immediately started pretending it was a baseball bat, and his passion is baseball. And his friend Matthew picked up the stick and started playing a guitar.
Oh my God.
And to this day, Matthew's passion is music and Robert's passion is baseball. And I remembered that moment because, and you're right, it was there when they were 18 months old. They immediately took this thing and transformed it into, what was true for them in that moment, how they saw that thing.
And sometimes it's not so clear, right, at 18 months or so exact.
No,
But
no.
the child will tell you, they're an introvert, they're an extrovert. And I don't want to put labels that are confining because they're ever evolving beings, but they're kind of telling you, and you can pick up signs from that and then expose them to things, sure. But then don't cram them down with those things in the fear that if they're not accomplished in childhood, they won't be successful in later life. You and I were talking earlier that we didn't do anything in our summers, our cultures and that time. Who did anything in the summer? And look how productive you and I are today. We are like workhorses. We can't stop working. But we were lazy, slothful, couch potatoes in the summer, or just playing outside aimlessly, not entering competitions and earning medals. So because we are sure of this in us, we who have entered wholeness in our late life can now guide our children to say, no, if it doesn't come from you, don't do it. It must come from you or something connected to who you are. So I will connect as a parent, I want to expose, and the child is 6 and may not be able to say, hey, I want to do this, but you kind of know that this will match their inherent temperament, and you stay close to that and expose them, but never in a way that comes out of fear, that if they're not that, then in the future they won't succeed, because that is a myth. It doesn't exist. It's not true.
It's so hard for us parents to really trust that. So we're talking about authenticity. Tell me why you think authenticity is an important leadership skill. Why is it so important as a leader?
Well, I think, if you look at the big leaders of today, if you look at when we were most attracted to Steve Jobs, was when he was so authentic during his passing, when he was vulnerable, transparent, and had the courage to show up. If you look at Oprah, why do people get so drawn to Oprah? Because she is so real, authentic, and honest about her process. Authenticity is a quality in our being that allows others to see that above all, life is a journey of growth. Instead, if we have other qualities and all qualities are essentially good, but if we have the other qualities without authenticity, then we are misguiding people that the journey is about the destination, it's about the end goal, it's about the outcome versus growth. Authenticity is one of those few rare essential qualities that allow people to see it's all about growth. I was 3 steps back and now I'm just 3 steps forward. And now I give the other person the liberation, the hope to say, oh, I can pivot my entire perspective on growth, not on where I need to be, but on how I'm growing. And authenticity does that. So as a leader, if you're not authentic, yeah, you'll make people aspire to be where you are, but you won't walk with them on their way there.
Yes. there's also this idea of being genuine. And when we're in our genuine power, like you said, Oprah, Steve Jobs, it's a magnet. We're attracted to people who are leading from their power because we too want to lead from our power. And one of the things that I've come to recognize is everyone's not going to be Steve Jobs or Oprah Winfrey. And by the way, there's not room for everyone in the world to be that way. And some of us, I think Oprah is ordinary. She's just ordinary with a job that reaches lots of people. And the same for Steve Jobs or Barack Obama or any other of the big, loud leaders out there. And in order for them to succeed, there's so many people that's supporting them who are in their authentic power,
Yes.
doing what's best and right for them. And so
Yes.
it
So
requires
it's not about limelight, right? And I
yes,
only use those examples because everyone will understand what I'm talking
yes,
about. But you're so right in pointing that out because everyone begins to think that they need to be a leader on that world stage. And like you said, if you break down these people who are on a world stage, they are human beings who just have a big spotlight on them and lots of TV screens that take them to the world. It's not that they themselves are standing there going, I'm reaching the world right now. They're just doing their job, which is to show up, enter their truth, and express themselves. That's it, if you break it down. One may be good at politics, one may be good at technology. It doesn't matter. We can do the same thing in our homes. And it's not about reaching any level of outer success. It's about connecting with what gives you joy in the present moment. And if you haven't found that, then be joyful in the moment that doesn't have that anyway. Right?
that's
It's not about finding something. It's about truly saying, I have a right to be on this earth as I am.
mhm.
I think we see that in divorces or in marriages that are disgruntled. People don't feel like they have a right to be who it is they are already. They need to become something else.
Yeah, I think that's so true in what's happening to our children. They're not given space to figure out who they are, and they're not given the right to be who they are. In many cases, it's a struggle, and
I tell parents that yeah, you give up the ego of having praise for your child, how they're being produced. Yeah, you may give that up. You may. But what you win in the long run is when your kid turns into an adult at 30 and 40, they're going to have this bank of emotional resilience because they never diverted from their truest self. And it doesn't have to be truest self as a pinpointed because we don't know what that is, but the best version of who they inherently are. And if they live close to that, every choice they make in their life will come close to that versus they're in their 40s and they figure out, oh my God, what have I done? I was a conditioned self. I lived my life according to someone else. And now I have to undo all those years.
yeah, and that the undoing takes so much time and energy. It's such a waste.
It's such a waste. So, do we want to do that? Yeah, we may give up the praise, but what we're going to get in return is my kid will find their way because they're always in touch with who it is they are. So, it's about what you value as a parent and being willing to give up the ego for the spirit.
It's true, and fear. So one tip that I give my kids about, checking in with authenticity or figuring out who their true self is this simple like body check. And it's, I tell him really it's as simple as this. Does that feel good in your body or
Mhm,
bad? When you
mhm,
made that choice, did it feel
mhm,
good or bad?
mhm,
Because I call them gingerbread crumbs. Like, how do I give them gingerbread crumbs to their authentic self?
mhm.
And they're going to make decisions that make them feel bad, and I think that's great because they know then that's they can
Right.
bookmark that. So what are some tips that you have for how parents can guide ourselves to our authenticity, because some of us are still figuring it out, and then also how do we tips you give Maya, or how do you guide parents in that realm?
I think the first step is to tell parents that if they are in the pit with their kids and think that they are going to be right there with their kid making the decision, that's already the wrong energy. They need to see themselves as just the guide, as the presenter of choices. And of course, if their kid is going to be unsafe, then we become, strong and powerful and just take over. I'm not talking about those red flag instances. I'm talking about where it's a daily checking in. And we present to our children all the time, let me just say that I see that this is going to happen. when you eat that or when you stay awake that late. Or
Yeah.
I'm just saying that's going to happen, but I want you to check in and figure out how that feels for you. And then later on, don't cry about it, or you can, but try to own it right now. Do you understand? And I make eye contact and I go, do you understand what you're doing right now? Because I see this happening in the future. Are you willing to take that consequence, especially when they're older, right? They're in their teen years.
Yes.
They need to start owning to feel the thermostat of a good or bad decision.
Yes.
And if we can do it when they're younger, where you know you're protecting them, they can't make too many unsafe choices because you're right there.
Yes.
So that's the age where you let them go for it. What do you feel? No, what do you think? And you don't even have to ask. You just have to create the space where you are not in their boundary. When you don't overstep your boundary, they will come forth. They will rise up. They will tell you how they want to spend the day. But we are always right there with them, micromanaging, that we take away their ability to self-govern.
Yes, we're robbing them of that opportunity to learn about themselves, really, is what's occurring.
Yes.
And what I want to say is that I know that it's coming from a place of love from us, that we want what's best for them. But if we can start to, look at it just a little bit differently, like what if letting them fall is best for them? What if letting them make their own mistakes is best?
Correct. Or not, the other converse is not pushing them to succeed, but knowing that they are success. They don't have to be successful according to a definition, but they are success. Their moment right now is success. Their life is success, and the universe is success. So when you look at life in wholeness and you live your life in wholeness, they're going to pick up on this, that life is good. Mm-hmm. And I have time. My daughter always tells me I'm still a child. I don't need to figure it out. Yes. Right? Sometimes I say, you haven't figured it out yet. And she's like, I'm still a child. So to give the children the feeling that life is to be figured out. It's not to be delivered, packaged, and ribboned as a gift. It's to be figured out. It's growth.
That's the journey.
Yes.
The journey to authenticity. I love that. Well, I'd love to talk to you for hours about it. I know we could go on because this leads into so many other conversations, but I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for giving me your time and your deep, deep presence and your brilliance. Thank you for your radiance. I'm so enjoying it.
Thank you for everything you do. Lots of love.
But before we go,
yes.
You can find more tools on the newsletter. So you guys will be able to get more support in how to cultivate authenticity from the inside out. So I'd love to hear from everyone on Facebook, and perhaps Shefali will be in conversation a little bit on Facebook about authenticity.
Yes.
We could all be in the conversation about what it's like and really start to get in the nitty gritty. And also, if you'd like a free copy of Dr. Shefali's book, maybe we can see it one more time.
Yes. So we're going to give a free copy, right? They can enter a giveaway.
We're going to enter a giveaway. So you're going to sign up at bringithome.me/Shefali. To win your chance to win a copy of the new book, which is coming out this month. So super excited. Great timing. And I hope you enjoyed this month on Redefining Success with Dr. Shefali. For last month's interview with Dr. Shauna Shapiro on cultivating courage, which you named this early on in the conversation, takes a lot of courage to live in authenticity. It's a really courageous act.
Right.
So go to the website and catch Dr. Shapiro's interview there. And I look forward to seeing you all here next month. And Shefali, I look forward to seeing you soon. And thank you.
Thank you.
Enjoy the moments.
Yes.
Take care.